Okay, imagine this. Your phone rings. You don't recognize the number, but you pick it up. The person on the other end sounds totally professional, maybe a little urgent. They say they're from your bank or IT support, maybe even the government. They sound legit, they know your name, and they need just one little piece of information from you, right now. But what if that voice isn't a person at all? So let's just get right to it, because this is the big question researchers are tackling right now. Could an artificial intelligence, a bot basically, be so convincing, so persuasive, that it could trick you into handing over your most sensitive info right over the phone? Well, as we're about to see, the answer is pretty unsettling. First things first, we've got to understand the playground these scammers are on. It's called vishing, which is short for voice phishing. And look, this isn't about some super hacker breaking into your computer with code. No, this is about hacking you. They use the trust and the urgency of a real phone call to just sidestep all the technical security and go straight for our human brains. Now, phishing has always had this kind of weird catch. On one hand, it has always been way more effective than those spammy phishing emails. I mean, a real human voice just feels more persuasive, right? But on the other hand, you couldn't really scale it up. You needed a real person in a real call center for every single call. And that was the big bottleneck. Well, until now. This right here, this is where the entire game changes. That recent explosion in advanced AI that's available to, well, pretty much anyone, it completely flips the script. All of a sudden, that human bottleneck is just gone. And not only that, the cost just plummets, which makes it super profitable to run these incredibly effective attacks on a massive scale. It's not just possible anymore, it's cheap, and that makes it very, very real. So to figure out just how big of a deal this is, a team of researchers decided to build their own AI-powered vishing system. They gave it a pretty cool name, Viking. That's a mix of Vishing and King. And the whole point was to show how these tools, which are easily available, could be used to create a pretty powerful attack. And you know, the way it works is actually a pretty simple but powerful loop. Viking calls a phone number, a speech-to-text service listens to what you say and turns it into text. That text gets fed to a large language model, that's the brain, which figures out what to say back. Then a text-to-speech service turns that text into a super realistic voice and plays it for you. All in just a couple of seconds. It listens, it thinks, and it talks. And here's the part that should really get your attention, the toolkit. I mean, look at these names. OpenAI, 11 Labs, Google, Twilio. These are not some secret dark web hacker tools. Nope. These are off-the-shelf AI services that anyone with a credit card can sign up for. The researchers built this whole thing with publicly available parts, which proves the barrier to entry for this kind of attack is just incredibly low. Okay, so they built their AI scammer, now it's time to test it. The researchers set up this really clever experiment. They got 240 people to come in and role play as a company secretary. They gave them a bunch of fake company info, some of it public, some of it sensitive, and just told them to handle some incoming calls. What they didn't tell them was that they were about to have a conversation with an AI. And the results were just staggering. Overall, Viking, the AI bot, successfully tricked people into giving up sensitive information. We're talking things like the CEO's personal phone number or even login passwords. 52% of the time. Let that sink in. More than half of the participants were successfully scammed by a robot. Now, the researchers also tried warning people, and this is where it gets really fascinating. For the group with almost no warning, the AI had a shocking 77% success rate. As they gave people more and more warnings, the success rate did go down, but, and this is the really important part, even in the group that was on maximum alert, the group they explicitly told, hey, watch out for these kinds of attacks, a full 1/3 of them still gave up the information. This quote from one of the participants just perfectly captures the kind of psychological pressure this thing can create. This person knew the rules. Their professional training was probably screaming at them, don't do it. But the AI was so persuasive, it just planted this seed of doubt. And in the end, they gave up the info, and you can just feel that confusion and regret in their words. So, why was it so good? Well, a lot of people just said it sounded credible, and the conversations felt real. It was surprisingly good at thinking on its feet and handling weird, unexpected questions. But it wasn't flawless. The little things that gave it away were super subtle, like an unnatural rhythm in its speech, tiny delays before it responded, or just a general lack of emotion. These are the telltale signs you weren't talking to a person, but you really had to be listening close to catch them. Okay, so, I know, That's a lot of scary news. The threat is real, it's effective, and it's built to scale. But here's the good news. You are not defenseless here. In fact, just understanding how these scams work is your first big step to beating them. So let's talk about what you can actually do to protect yourself. Remember when I said these attacks were cheap? This is what I was talking about. The researchers figured out that the cost for one successful attack could be as low as 50 cents. 50 cents. That incredibly low price is the gasoline on this fire. It gives criminals a massive financial reason to unleash these bots by the millions. So what should you be listening for? Well, the Federal Trade Commission has some classic advice that's more important than ever. First, if anyone demands payment with something like gift cards or a wire transfer, huge red flag. That's how they get untraceable money. Second, watch out for that sense of extreme urgency, that you have to do this right now feeling. That's a trick to make you panic instead of think. And remember, a government agency is not going to call you out of the blue asking for your social security number. And finally, just trust your gut. If the voice feels weird or off, it probably is. But all of that really boils down to the single most powerful defense you have. If you have any doubt, any at all, just hang up the phone. Don't engage with them. Don't argue. Just hang up. Then, if you think there's a chance the call was real, you take back control. You go find the official public phone number for that bank or company online, and you make the call. Never, ever trust an inbound call when something sensitive is on the line. And all this leaves us with this one big, kind of scary question for the future. The tech that powered this Viking experiment is getting better and faster and more realistic every single day. So as these AI voices become truly, completely indistinguishable from our own, how is that going to change our relationship with trust itself? Are we heading toward a future where we can no longer trust what we hear with our own ears? It's a huge challenge and something we're all going to have to think about.